Commander Allison Wright stood at the large window of the spaceship, Last Hope. This was humanity's final diplomatic vessel to leave Galactic Council space. She looked out at the stars, feeling both sad and proud. Behind her, Admiral Frank Miller watched with his arms crossed over his chest. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes held deep disappointment. "It's really happening," Allison said quietly. "After all these years." Frank nodded slowly. 100 years we gave them. 100 years of sharing our best ideas, our art, our technology, and still, they looked down on us. The decision hadn't been easy. Earth's leaders had debated for months before the final vote came in. It was unanimous. Humanity would leave the Galactic Council and return to their own space. They would close their borders and focus on themselves. Allison turned away from the window as the blue-green planet that housed the Council headquarters grew smaller behind them. She remembered her first day there 20 years ago. She had been so excited, so hopeful about working with alien species and learning from them. That hope had slowly died as year after year, humans were treated as children playing at being adults. "They called us primitive in the council meeting yesterday," Frank said. "After we helped them solve the Rigel energy crisis and cured the Nulonian plague." "They'll miss us someday," Allison replied. She walked to the ship's control panel and checked their course. 6 more hours until they reached the jump point that would take them back to human space. Back home. On the council planet below, chaos was spreading through the grand halls of the Galactic Council chambers. Ambassador Krilgson of the Valzari stood frozen, staring at his screen. The human withdrawal notice glowed there, official and final. "They cannot simply leave," he said to his assistant. His 4 eyes blinked in different patterns, showing his confusion. "They are useful." The assistant, a younger Valzari named Zex, looked nervous. "Should we call an emergency meeting, sir?" Krilgson shook his head. His skin changed from purple to a deep blue, showing his anger. "No. The humans are being emotional, as always. They will return when they realize they need the council." Across the chamber, other alien species were having similar reactions. The Nulonian representative, a crystal-like being named Shirlat, approached Krilgson slowly. "This is most concerning," Shirlat said. Her voice sounded like small bells. "The humans provided 60% of our medical research teams. They are young and impulsive," Krilgson replied. "They will learn their place." But as the Last Hope prepared to make its final jump out of council space, the truth was different. Humanity had learned something important. They didn't need the council as much as the council needed them. On board the ship, Allison called the crew together for a final message before they left council space forever. 50 men and women gathered, in the main hall, representing the last humans to leave. Many had worked for decades trying to earn respect from the older alien species. "Today marks the end of humanity's experiment with the Galactic Council," Allison said. Her voice was strong and clear. "But it's not the end of humanity's journey among the stars. We leave behind a council that never valued our contributions or respected our people. We take with us our creativity, our determination, and our dignity." The crew stood straighter at her words. Frank stepped forward. "When we return to Earth next week, we'll begin a new chapter. Our scientists will continue their work. Our artists will create new wonders. Our explorers will find new worlds, but we'll do it for ourselves and on our own terms." One of the younger crew members raised her hand. "What if they ask us to come back?" Allison smiled slightly. "They're too proud to ask, at least not right away. But someday they might. And when that day comes, humanity will decide if the galaxy deserves a second chance." Back on the council planet, the first problems were already starting. In the central medical facility, Dr. Erlon of the Zyphar species was trying to access the human medical database. His scaled hands moved quickly over the controls, but the screen remained blank. "Where are the human treatment protocols?" he demanded of his staff. "The Valzari ambassador's child needs the human therapy for bone growth." His assistant looked up nervously. "The humans took their databases with them, Doctor. They left only the treatments already in use, not the research or upcoming medicines." Dr. Erlon's tail slapped against the floor in frustration. Impossible. Those records belong to the Council. The humans developed them, the assistant said quietly. Under Council law, they had the right to take their intellectual property with them. Similar scenes played out across Council space in the hours after the human departure. The Nulonian transport system, which ran on human-designed algorithms, began to show small errors. The Valzari defense grid, recently updated by human security experts, needed new security keys that would never come. On the last hope, Allison watched the final countdown to the jump that would take them out of Council space. The crew was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts about what they were leaving behind and what waited ahead. 10 seconds to jump, the ship's computer announced. Frank stood beside Allison. No messages from the Council? She shook her head. Their pride won't let them reach out. Not yet. 5 seconds. Allison thought about all the human achievements that would now benefit only humanity. The new faster-than-light drive being tested on Mars. The climate control systems that could terraform planets in decades instead of centuries. The medical advances that could extend life by hundreds of years. 3, 2, 1. The stars outside the viewport stretched into lines as the last hope entered the jump. Behind them, they left a galaxy that had never appreciated what humans brought to it. Innovation, creativity, and a unique way of solving problems that the older species had lost long ago. Jump complete, the computer announced. We have left Council space. A cheer went up from the crew. They were going home, and they were taking humanity's gifts with them. In his private chambers on the Council planet, Ambassador Krilzan received the first of what would become many reports of systems failing or underperforming without human expertise. He dismissed the concerns, telling himself that the Council races had existed for thousands of years before humans appeared. They would manage without them. But as he prepared for bed that night, a small doubt crept into his mind. The humans had accomplished more in 1 century than many species had in a millennium. They thought differently, acted differently, created differently. They will return, he told himself as he turned off the lights. They need us more than we need them. The galaxy would learn too late how wrong he was. As the last hope sped toward Earth, Allison made a final entry in the ship's log. Humanity walked away today. Perhaps someday the galaxy will be worthy of our return. 5 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. In that time, Earth and its colonies had grown stronger than ever before. Without the Council's restrictions, human innovation had exploded in all directions. Dr. Samantha. Cole walked through the large research center in New Seattle, reading reports on her tablet. The morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows, lighting up the busy hallways. Hundreds of scientists worked in the building, all focused on projects that would benefit humanity alone. Morning, Sam, called Dr. Kevin Barnes as he caught up to her. Have you seen the new intelligence reports? Samantha nodded, a small smile on her face. I have. The Nulonian medical centers are struggling with the Tari virus outbreak. Their doctors can't figure out how our treatment worked. And they won't, Kevin said, not without understanding our approach to adaptive medicine. They entered the main conference room where a large screen showed images from across Council space. The pictures had been captured by small, hidden human probes that continued to monitor the galaxy they had left behind. The Zephyr trade routes are a mess, Samantha said, pointing to one image showing dozens of ships waiting near a space station. Their navigation systems are failing without our regular updates. And look at this, Kevin added, bringing up another image. The Valzari defense grid had 3 major failures last month. Turns out they never really understood how our security protocols worked. They just used what we gave them. Samantha sat down at the large table, looking at all the evidence of a galaxy struggling without human help. They're starting to feel it now, she said quietly. But have any of them reached out officially? Nothing direct, Kevin replied. Pride is a universal constant, it seems. Across the galaxy, the first emergency meeting of the Galactic Council in 300 years was being called to order. Representatives from all 27 member species gathered in the Great Hall, their voices a mix of different sounds as they spoke in their native languages. Ambassador Krilzan stood at the Y central podium. In 5 years, his purple skin had developed gray patches, signs of stress in the Valzari. He raised his forearms for silence, and slowly, the room quieted. Esteemed colleagues, he began, his translator converting his clicking speech into the common language. We must address the growing complications caused by the human absence. A murmur ran through the crowd. No one wanted to admit how much they had come to depend on humans in just 1 century. Last week, the colony ship Valzari Hope was lost when its life support systems failed, Krilixan continued. 3,000 lives gone. The systems were human-designed, and without their maintenance protocols, our engineers could not prevent the failure. The Nulonian representative stood, her crystal body catching the light. We face similar problems. The human treatments for 15 major diseases are beginning to fail as the viruses evolve. Without their researchers, we cannot update the medicines. One by one, representatives stood to share similar stories. Trade was slowing down. Defense systems were becoming vulnerable. New technologies had stalled. In just 5 years, the absence of human innovation was being felt in every corner of council space. We should offer them concessions, the Nulonian suggested. Voting rights on the council, perhaps. A Zephyr delegate snorted, the sound like rocks falling. They would demand more now. They have seen their worth reflected in our struggles. Meanwhile, beyond council space, humanity thrived. The colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan had grown into technological marvels. Earth's cities had been transformed with new energy systems and transportation networks. Freed from council restrictions, humans had begun to expand to nearby star systems, developing their own society without alien influence. Carol Patterson sat in her office at the Border Monitoring Division headquarters. Large screens covered the walls, showing the boundary between human space and council territory. As Earth's former council liaison, she now headed the department responsible for keeping an eye on their former allies. Her assistant, Dan Walsh, entered with a fresh cup of coffee. Another diplomatic vessel approaching the border, he reported. 3rd one this month. Carol sipped her coffee and looked at the small alien ship on the screen. Same response as always, she replied. Silent. Rejection. Dan nodded and sent the automated message. No words, just a simple code that told the alien vessel to turn back. They're getting more persistent, he noted. They're getting more desperate, Carol corrected him. The reports say their cooperative research projects are failing without human thinking to connect the dots between different alien approaches. Do you think we'll ever go back? Dan asked. Carol looked at the pictures of her 20 years in council space that hung on her office wall. Not unless they learn to see us as equals, really see us, not just say the words. On the council homeworld, Ambassador Krilzan met secretly with leaders from the 5 oldest council species. They gathered in a small room deep beneath the council chambers, away from public eyes and recording devices. The situation is worse than we've admitted publicly, he told them. Our scientists estimate that within another 5 years, 30% of our collaborative technologies will fail completely. The CFAR representative, a tall reptilian being named Scalez, hissed softly. We should force them to return. A blockade of their trade routes, perhaps. The oldest among them, a gaseous entity called Mistal that had seen over 1,000 years of galactic politics, flashed red with warning. We tried to see humans as less than they are for too long. Now we pay the price. Force will not bring them back. It will only push them further away. Then what do you suggest? Krilzan asked. We must swallow our pride, Mistal replied, its voice like a whisper, and recognize what we have lost. Back on Earth, life continued to improve for humanity, without the need to share their discoveries. All human effort went into building a better future for themselves. New cities rose on other worlds. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries were eliminated one by one. Art and culture flourished in the new age of human independence. In her lab in New Seattle, Samantha worked late into the night, She was developing a new treatment that could extend human lifespans by 50 years, work that would have been restricted under council rules about natural development patterns. Kevin entered the lab, holding 2 cups of tea. "You should sleep, sometimes," he said, placing 1 cup beside her. "Soon," she promised, not looking up from her microscope. "I'm close to a breakthrough." "Another one?" he asked with a smile. "That's your 3rd this month." Samantha finally looked up. "That's the difference, isn't it? The council races stopped having breakthroughs centuries ago. They just slowly built on what they knew. We keep jumping ahead, making connections they don't see." "And now they miss those jumps," Kevin said. Outside the lab window, the night sky was filled with stars. Somewhere out there, 27 alien species were slowly realizing what they had lost when humanity walked away. Pride had kept them from seeing the truth, that sometimes the youngest voice had the most to teach. As Samantha returned to her work, a message arrived at Earth's border station. Unlike the diplomatic vessels that kept being turned away, this was a simple transport ship. Inside were not ambassadors or politicians, but ordinary aliens, doctors, engineers, and scientists who had worked with humans before. Their message was not an official council communication. It was simpler and more honest. "We made a mistake. We need your help." The message would sit unanswered for days as Earth's leadership debated their response. But it was the beginning of something new. The first crack in the wall between humanity and the galaxy that had rejected them. 15 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. Earth and its colonies were now stronger than ever. Human ships explored the stars beyond council space, finding new worlds and resources without alien interference. Lieutenant Maria Santos sat at her monitoring station in the Deep Space Monitoring Corps headquarters. Her eyes were fixed on the screen showing strange energy patterns from former council space. She had been tracking these unusual readings for 3 days now. "General Jackson," she called out as her supervisor entered the room, "I think you need to see this." General Paul Jackson walked over, his face serious. He was an older man with gray hair who had been among the last human diplomats to leave council space 15 years ago. "What am I looking at, Lieutenant?" he asked. "Energy signatures consistent with large-scale warfare," Maria explained. "These readings suggest weapons much more powerful than anything we've seen before." Paul studied the screen, his expression growing darker. "How far into council space?" "That's the concerning part, sir," Maria replied. "These signatures started at the outer edges 3 months ago. Now they've moved inward almost 20 light years. Whatever this is, it's advancing." Quickly, Paul straightened up. "Send everything to the Leadership Council. This requires immediate attention." On Earth, the highest levels of human government met in an emergency session. The room was filled with serious faces as they reviewed the data. From the Deep Space Monitoring Corps, Director Elaine Murphy, leader of the isolationist faction, spoke first. "This is not our problem," she said firmly. "We left council space because they didn't respect us. Their problems are not our concern." Others disagreed. "We may have walked away," said General Jackson, "but we never stopped being who we are. If something threatens the galaxy, it could eventually threaten us too." President Alan Cooper listened to all sides before speaking. "What do we know about this threat?" "Very little," admitted Admiral Susan Bell, head of the Space Fleet. "Our probes can only gather limited information from such distances, but the energy patterns suggest a highly advanced biotech civilization, something the Council has never encountered before." The debate continued for hours. Some wanted to maintain isolation, while others argued for at least gathering more information. In the end, President Cooper made his decision. "We will increase monitoring, but maintain our borders. If the Council reaches out directly, we will listen, but we will not make the first move." Meanwhile, in Council space, the situation had become desperate. The threat had a name now, the hive mind of Sector 9, a collective consciousness that spread through space like a living flood. Their biotechnology consumed everything in its path, Adapting to each defense the Council races deployed. The Nulonian homeworld fell in just 6 days, its beautiful crystal cities absorbed into the hive's growing mass. The Zephyr fleet, once the pride of the galaxy, proved useless against an enemy that learned from each attack and evolved new defenses within hours. In an emergency bunker on the Council capital world, Ambassador Krilzan, now Supreme Coordinator of Council Defense, faced the gathered representatives of the remaining Council worlds. "Our conventional weapons are ineffective," he reported, his once purple skin now almost completely gray with age and stress. "The hive mind adapts too quickly to our tactics." "What about the forbidden weapons?" asked a Zephyr general. "The planet killers? We tried them at the Gala system," Krilzan replied. "The hive absorbed the technology and grew stronger. Now they have similar weapons of their own." Silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. The Council races, with their thousands of years of development, were facing extinction. Their methodical, careful approach to technology had left them unable to counter an enemy that evolved as rapidly as the hive. An aide entered the room and whispered something to Krilzan. The old Valzari's 4 eyes widened slightly. "What is it?" demanded one of the representatives. "A small ship from the outer colonies has arrived," Krilzan said slowly. "The captain reports that they encountered a hive scout vessel. It was destroyed and by unknown means." Hope flickered through the room. "How?" several voices asked at once. "The captain doesn't know. They were hiding on a small moon when another ship appeared. It engaged the hive vessel with weapons the captain had never seen before. The hive tried to adapt, but the weapons kept changing. The hive scout was destroyed in minutes." "What ship? What species?" asked the Zephyr general. Krilzan looked around the room, his 4 eyes blinking slowly. "The ship departed before they could make contact, but it matched no known Council design." The implication hung in the air. Only one spacefaring civilization existed outside Council records. "We need the humans," said a Nulonian representative, saying aloud what everyone was thinking. "Their unpredictable thinking, their constant innovation, it may be our only hope against an enemy that adapts to predictable attacks." Krilzan nodded slowly. "I have already drafted a message, not a diplomatic request this time, just the truth." Back in human space, Officer Lisa Grant monitored the border station near what was once Council territory. Her shift had been quiet until an alert sounded at her console. "Unidentified vessel approaching border marker 7, the computer announced. Lisa checked the readings. "Another Council diplomatic ship," she muttered. They still came occasionally, though less frequently than in the early years after humanity's departure. The standard procedure was to send the automated rejection message. But something about this ship was different. It was small, damaged, and broadcasting on all frequencies, not just the diplomatic channels. Against protocol, Lisa opened a communication channel. "This is Human Border Station 12. Identify yourself." The screen flickered to life, showing an alien face. Not a Valzari diplomat or Nulonian ambassador, but a regular citizen, a Zephyr trader, his scales dull with exhaustion. "Thank the stars," the alien said. "Please, we carry refugees and a message for your leaders." Lisa hesitated. Opening the borders was not her decision to make. But the desperation in the alien's voice was clear. "What message?" she asked. "Our worlds are falling. A new enemy, the hive mind, consumes everything in its path. The Council, we..." The alien seemed to struggle with the words. "We need help, your help." Lisa made a decision that would change galactic history. Instead of closing the channel and reporting the contact, she replied, "This is humanity. We're listening." Within hours, the refugee ship was brought to the border station. Its passengers, a mix of species from across Council space, were the first aliens to enter human territory in 15 years. They brought with them records of the hive mind's advance and the Council's failed attempts to stop it. As human scientists reviewed the data, one thing became clear. The methodical, predictable approach of the Council races was exactly what made them vulnerable to the hive. Each time they deployed a weapon or defense, the hive studied it, adapted to it, and overcame it. What was needed was something the hive couldn't predict or easily adapt to. Something that changed constantly, that followed intuitive leaps rather than logical progressions. What was needed was humanity. President Cooper called another emergency meeting. This time the debate was shorter. Even Director Murphy, after seeing the refugee reports, agreed that this threat could eventually reach human space. "It's not just about helping them," General Jackson said. "It's about stopping this hive before it becomes too powerful for even us to handle." The decision was made. Humanity would return to Council space, not as junior partners begging for acceptance, but as equals bringing the one thing the ancient races of the galaxy now desperately needed: the unpredictable human spark. The experimental warship Reconsideration led a small fleet of human vessels into Council space 3 months after the refugees' plea. Captain Ryan Howard stood on the bridge, watching as his ship approached the rendezvous point. This would be the first official meeting between humans and Council representatives since humanity walked away 15 years ago. "Nervous, Captain?" asked his first officer, Linda Chen. Ryan smiled slightly. "Not nervous, just wondering if they've actually learned anything in 15 years. The Reconsideration was humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Unlike the methodical, predictable designs of Council vessels, it featured systems that could be reconfigured during battle. Its weapons could change frequency, intensity, and even physical properties. It was the perfect ship to face an enemy that adapted to consistent attacks. "Council station in visual range," reported the sensor officer. On the main screen, a large space station appeared. It had clearly seen better days. Parts of its outer ring were damaged, and emergency repair crews could be seen working on its surface. "They've taken a beating," Linda observed. Ryan nodded. "Open a channel." The screen changed to show the face of Ambassador Krilksan. The Valzari diplomat had aged considerably. His once vibrant purple skin was now mostly gray, and his 4 eyes seemed duller than Ryan remembered from historical recordings. "Captain Howard," Krilzan said, "the Council welcomes humanity's assistance in this crisis." Ryan noticed there was no pride in the alien's voice now. No condescension, just exhaustion and relief. "We're here to help," Ryan replied simply. "We'll dock in 20 minutes. Have your scientists ready to share all data on the hive mind." When Captain Howard stepped onto the Council station for the first meeting, the usual diplomatic protocol was abandoned. Instead of the formal greeting ceremony that would have occurred in the past, Ambassador Krilzan bowed deeply to the human captain, an unprecedented gesture from a Valzari to any species. "We have much to discuss," Howard said simply, "and little time." The meeting room was filled with representatives from the remaining Council races. Many species were missing, their homeworlds already consumed by the hive mind. Those present looked at the humans with a mixture of hope and shame. Ryan connected his data tablet to the main display. "We've analyzed the information provided by the refugees and our own monitoring systems. The hive mind uses a form of biotechnology that adapts to threats by rapid evolution." "Yes," confirmed a Nulonian scientist. "We've tried every weapon in our arsenal. Each works once, maybe twice. Then the hive adapts." Ryan nodded. "That's because you attack in patterns, your weapons remain consistent. Your strategies follow logical progressions that the hive can learn and predict." He pulled up images of the human fleet waiting outside. "Our approach is different. Our systems are designed to be unpredictable, to change constantly. We believe this is the key to fighting the hive." Over the next weeks, the most intensive cross-species collaboration in galactic history took place. Human scientists and engineers worked alongside Council specialists, combining human creativity with the ancient knowledge of the Council races. Dr. Nicole Peterson, Earth's leading xenobiologist, led a team studying the limited hive mind samples the Council had managed to collect. One evening, as she examined a piece of hive tissue under a microscope, she noticed something unusual. "The neural pathways," she murmured. "They're not random." Her Council counterpart, a Zephyr named Dr. Zex, looked confused. What do you mean? The hive adapts quickly, but not randomly, Nicole explained, her excitement growing. There's a pattern to how it processes new information. A vulnerability. She called over engineer Joe Martinez, who had been working on weapon systems. Together, they began developing a radical new approach, a virus that would disrupt the hive's collective consciousness. By exploiting this pattern, it won't attack their biology directly, Nicole explained to the gathered council scientists. Instead, it will create a cascading failure in their communication network. It will turn their adaptability against them. The council scientists watched in amazement as the humans worked. They argued openly, challenged authority, pursued intuitive leaps rather than methodical processes, behaviors the council species had previously viewed as signs of primitive development. They are not primitive, Ambassador Krilksen observed to his aide as they watched Dr. Peterson and her team work through the night. They are unbounded, and we nearly lost that forever. Meanwhile, Captain Howard led joint fleet exercises, teaching council pilots to fight in unpredictable patterns. Don't do what makes sense, he told them. Do what feels right in the moment. The hive predicts logic. It can't predict intuition. Many council pilots struggled with this concept. Centuries of training had taught them to follow optimal attack patterns and carefully planned maneuvers. I don't understand, complained a Valzari squadron leader after a failed simulation. How can we coordinate if each ship acts independently? Ryan smiled. That's exactly why it will work. The hive expects coordination. It expects patterns. We'll give it chaos instead. As the weeks passed, reports came in of the hive mind advancing further into council space. 3 more systems fell. Billions of lives were lost. The pressure to act grew daily. Finally, Dr. Peterson announced that the neural virus was ready. Engineer Martinez had developed a delivery system, special missiles that would penetrate the hive's defenses by constantly changing their approach vectors. The combined human council fleet gathered at the Orion Spur, directly in the path of the hive's advance. 500 ships, the largest fleet ever assembled, prepared for the battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. On the bridge of the reconsideration, Captain Howard addressed the fleet. Today we fight not just for humanity or the Council, but for all life in the galaxy. Remember your training. Be unpredictable. Trust your instincts. The hive adapts to patterns, so give it none. The battle began as the hive fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. Thousands of biological ships, each one different from the last, swarmed toward the waiting defenders. The Council ships, flying in seemingly random patterns as the humans had taught them, engaged the outer edge of the hive fleet. For the first time, the hive struggled to adapt to their attacks. It's working, Linda Chen reported, watching the tactical display. The hive ships can't predict our movements, but the advantage wouldn't last forever. Even chaos could become a pattern if observed long enough. Launch the virus delivery systems, Ryan ordered. Special missile ships moved forward, each following a unique trajectory. The Council provided covering fire, creating distractions to draw the hive's attention. Lieutenant Eric West, commanding one of the missile ships, weaved through the battle with remarkable skill. His ship took heavy damage, but reached its designated position. Virus payload ready, he reported, awaiting final command. Captain Howard looked at his tactical display. All 20 virus delivery ships were in position, surrounding the heart of the hive fleet where long-range scans had located the central control nodes. Lieutenant West, Howard said, execute final command sequence. With the push of a button, Eric triggered the neural virus. The missiles launched, each following a different path, changing course randomly, making them nearly impossible for the hive to track. One by one, they reached their targets and detonated, releasing the virus into the hive's neural network. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly, the hive ships began to drift. Some turned against each other. Others simply stopped moving. It's working, Dr. Peterson breathed, watching from her lab on the reconsideration. The virus is breaking their connection. The battle continued for hours as pockets of the hive fought on. But without their central coordination, they were no longer an unstoppable force. By the end of the day, the combined fleet had achieved what had seemed impossible. They had defeated the hive mind. As damage reports came in, Captain Howard looked out at the battered but victorious fleet. Human and council ships flew side by side, both damaged, both triumphant. Ambassador Krilgzan approached Howard on the bridge. For a moment, the old Valzari said nothing. Then he extended all four arms in a gesture of profound respect. The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid, he said. We were wrong about your people. We see that now. Ryan accepted the gesture, but his expression remained serious. This victory doesn't erase the past, Ambassador. If humanity returns to the galactic community, it will be as equals, not as junior partners. Of course, Krilgzan agreed immediately. The council as it was, that council died today. Something new must take its place. As the fleet began the journey back to council space, news of the victory spread throughout the galaxy. Humanity had returned when needed most, bringing the one thing the ancient races had lost, the ability to think beyond established patterns. The galaxy had been saved by those it had rejected. 1 year after the defeat of the hive mind, representatives from all species gathered on a new space station. It orbited at the exact halfway point between Earth and the former Council capital world. The station itself was a symbol of the new relationship. Its design combined elements of human architecture with traditional Council styles. Governor Julia Bennett, chosen to represent Earth at this historic meeting, stood before the large circular chamber. She was a tall woman with dark skin and gray hair who had once been a scientist before entering politics. She looked around at the gathered aliens, some familiar council races and others who had never been granted council membership before. We walked away because we were not respected, she began. Her voice was calm but firm. We return now not as supplicants, but as equals. The terms of our participation must reflect that reality. The chamber was silent. In the past, such a direct statement from a young species would have been seen as disrespectful. Now, after all that had happened, no one objected. Ambassador Krilgzan, who had once dismissed humans as impulsive children, now stood as their strongest advocate. Governor Bennett is right, he said, addressing the assembly. The old council failed because we valued age over innovation, tradition over adaptation. We nearly lost everything because we could not see beyond our own pride. What followed was not a negotiation, but a transformation. Over the next days, the representatives worked together to create something new, the Interstellar Cooperative. Unlike the hierarchical council, the cooperative would guarantee equal representation for all member species, regardless of their age or technological development. Innovation can come from anywhere, Governor Bennett reminded them during one difficult session. The hive taught us that survival depends on our ability to adapt and change. No species has a monopoly on good ideas. As the new charter took shape, other changes followed. The restriction on sharing technology was replaced with guidelines for responsible development. The limits on expansion were removed, allowing all species to grow as they wished as long as they respected the rights of others. Most importantly, the unspoken ranking of species by age was explicitly forbidden. In the new cooperative, all voices would be heard equally. On the final day of the COW meeting, the charter was ready for signing. Ambassador Krilgzan approached Governor Bennett before the ceremony. I wish to apologize, he said, his four eyes blinking in the Valzari expression of sincerity. Not just for myself, but for all the council. We were wrong about humans. Julia nodded, accepting his words. The past is past, Ambassador. What matters now is the future we build together. The signing ceremony was broadcast throughout human space and across the former council worlds. As Governor Bennett pressed her thumb to the document scanner, officially, bringing humanity into the Interstellar Cooperative, celebrations erupted on countless planets. On Earth, crowds gathered in major cities to watch the ceremony. In New Seattle, Dr. Samantha Cole and Dr. Kevin Barnes stood among thousands in the main square, looking up at the giant screens showing the event. Do you think it will last? Kevin asked, his voice barely audible over the cheering crowd. Samantha considered the question. It will if they remember the lesson. Sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from the newest voices. Ambassador Krilgzan, the last to sign, made a short speech. The galaxy needs diversity of thought, he told the billions watching. Each species brings a unique perspective. In that diversity lies our greatest strength. As the ceremony concluded, work was already beginning across the galaxy. Joint human-alien ventures flourished in the months that followed. The Nulonian medical centers incorporated human intuitive diagnostic approaches. The Zephyr trade routes employed human navigational creativity, and the next generation of Valzari children studied human history alongside their own ancient texts. 6 months after the formation of the Interstellar Cooperative, Captain Ryan Howard prepared for a new mission. The Reconsideration had been refitted and upgraded with technologies from across the cooperative. It would lead the first official exploration mission beyond known space, now with crew members from 12 different species working together. Nervous about having aliens on board? Linda Chen asked as they toured the newly renovated ship. Ryan shook his head. Not nervous, just aware that we're making history. Again. The mission had a dual purpose, exploration and protection. Though, the main hive mind had been defeated, small fragments had escaped. The Reconsideration would search for these remnants while mapping new regions of space. On the day of launch, the Reconsideration received a special visitor. Ambassador Krilzan came to inspect the ship and wish the crew well. As he walked through the vessel with Captain Howard, he noticed something unusual, a plaque mounted near the main entrance. "What is this?" he asked, his 4 eyes focusing on the human writing. "Something I thought was important to remember," Ryan replied. The ambassador read the words aloud. "Our strength lies not in our sameness, but in our diversity. The universe speaks in many voices. Wisdom lies in listening to them all." Krilzan was quiet for a moment. "Your people are remarkable," he said finally. "You could have demanded revenge for how we treated you. Instead, you helped create something better than what came before." Ryan smiled slightly. "That's what humans do. We build, we create, we improve. Now we get to do it alongside the rest of the galaxy, as equals." As the Reconsideration departed the next day, millions watched from planets and stations across cooperative space. The ship's diverse crew represented a new era, one where no species was considered more important than another, where ideas were valued regardless of their source. On Earth, President Cooper delivered a speech to mark the occasion. 15 years ago, humanity walked away from a galaxy that didn't value us. Today, we return to a galaxy that has learned its lesson. The path forward is one we will walk together, as equals. Throughout human colonies, children who had grown up hearing stories about the arrogant council now learned about the cooperative instead. They were taught that standing up for your worth sometimes meant walking away, but that offering help in times of need was equally important. In the council chambers, now the cooperative assembly, the representatives of 35 species debated, argued, and collaborated. The humans among them were no longer seen as impulsive children, but as valuable partners whose different way of thinking brought strength to them all. Governor Bennett, returning to Earth after the successful negotiations, looked out the viewport of her ship at the stars. Humanity had found its place among those stars, not as junior partners but as the catalyst that transformed galactic civilization itself. Her aide, a young man named Peter Ross, joined her at the window. "Was it worth it?" he asked. "The 15 years of isolation?" Julia nodded. "Sometimes you have to walk away to be truly seen. The galaxy needed to learn what life without humanity was like before they could appreciate what we bring to it." As her ship approached Earth, communications came in from across human space and beyond. Reports of joint research projects making breakthroughs, trade agreements benefiting all parties, cultural exchanges bringing new ideas to ancient civilizations. Humanity had walked away when respect was denied them. They had returned not just as saviors but as teachers, showing the ancient races of the galaxy that true civilization wasn't measured in years of existence, but in the capacity to recognize value. Indifference. The lesson had been learned. The galaxy would not forget it again.